Tam. Welcome back. Well, we have a spare moment to reflect. We don't get many of those, trust me. We thought we'd pipe in on the last village council meeting from 14 July 22. Miss Gibbs Thomas brought to the attention of the council some pretty serious facts. The first one being that Howard Brown had violated his mandated procedural due diligence by not providing notice in writing to the council as required by ordinance. I remember a certain Miss Jackie Clark saying, "That'll never happen." Well, let's start here. The Village of Indiantown is a charter form of government. In this form of government, the charter can be thought of as the village's constitution. The people are the only ones that can change the charter. For that reason, we think more people should focus on referendums to help avoid the kind of crap we have going on now in the village. So we'll get back to our story about the last meeting in just a second. Stand by. To understand this idea better, though, about referendums, let us elucidate a bit further on them for your edification, ladies and gentlemen. To be brief, let's take the Taj Mahal, or the town hall, as they like to call it at the village, as a good example of how a referendum can work in favor of the people. Here is an item that'll cost the taxpayers tens of millions of dollars as proposed, this new town hall. Argue all you want that charrettes were held for voter preference. They're not charrettes, they're charades. The public was given three predetermined plans and asked to choose what they like and don't like about them. There was no fourth option allowed, that being the not now Mahal. You see, they drone on about public approval. It drives the narrative. So what can one man do about it? Well, back to the referendums. If there was a referendum, which goes on the ballot and the voters have to approve, to change the charter, your constitution, so it was required for approval of any expenditure over, say, $2 million, there, see, now the voters have control over how the big money is spent. You, of course, will hear the arguments from the village that the water plant needs more immediate attention and expense, and it'll slow that down way too much, too. Well, I think we can handle that one, even though it may be a little tough, but hang with me here. You still with me? You see how this referendum works and it puts the power back in your hands? We're telling you all this to demonstrate what happened at the last meeting. You see, the citizen voters of the village, you, the people that are in the village, declared in your constitution, your charter, that the elected, that council that sits up there, were to follow what is in that document. You told them what they had to do. That means then that the charter is your mandate to the elected on how they are to operate. Therefore, the proper way for government to change anything is to ask the people for their permission. They would have to bring their case to the citizen voter, and then you can decide. Instead, what's happened is, in this case, some of the council went around the charter, four of them to be exact, ignoring the mandate completely, some of which they said would never happen. We'll play that for you coming up. It's their words, their time, their dime. They created what can arguably be called an invalid and challengeable ordinance by law. The council cannot create law that the people say is under their discretion. That's exactly what happened in this instance. And if we can deliver that kind of logic to you, well, a judge will surely see that it's a violation of the charter. This is challengeable. Well, anyway, what happened was this. The village manager, Howard Brown, made the argument that he was having a hard time hiring people. So he wanted to know, hiring people. You could have fooled us by the latest count, Mr. Brown. Anyway, he said that he needed latitude to issue benefits and bonuses outside of what was already codified in policy, meaning that the council had already said what those could be. So the council decided that, well, we're going to adopt an ordinance that says he could do just that. However, he had to do it within 7 days of making the offer to people, you see. Well, he didn't do it on two occasions. And that's the end of the story, right? No, the angst has been over the 7 days it took him to deliver. The real argument is that well, now we're getting back to where we need to be, the last council meeting. That's not the end of the story. You see, uh, all of this angst that's been going over the 7 days it took him to deliver, that's not the real argument. The real argument is that the council's already said that the people do not need to be heard. They ignored the charter, your constitution, your voice, and they're the ones screaming that they will listen to you. They haven't listened in the past. What makes you think they're going to listen to you in the future? They took it upon themselves to change what should have been under and is under your control. How does that make you feel? If they can do it with something like that, why can't they do it with other things? You see, if no one says anything, then why should they care what is in your charter? It won't mean anything to them. It starts small and it grows, like corruption. Look, folks, it's time for Howard Brown to go. Okay? This election is a mandate election. If Indiantown does not bring in fresh blood and ideas and break this corrupt cabal up, well, you'll get what you deserve. And unfortunately, your neighbors may suffer too. I want to share with you some of Tom Campini's thoughts on the matter, and we'll link to the full newsletter on Tam's story page. Here's an excerpt, and we quote, Brown claims that notifying the council within the 7-day period twice slipped his mind in January with 2 different employees. The ordinance passed by the council last year gives Brown the authority to not go to the council for a new hire that exceeds stated policy. Brown needed to inform the council in writing within 7 days is one of the ordinance provisions. This is what the village attorney came up with to do and an end run around the charter provision. Okay? An end run around your constitution. Someone else is saying this too, not just me. The manager has apologized and has proposed that rather than individually writing to each council member, he would place notification of any hiring variances in his bi-monthly report to them. Still quoting, that report is also available online. The ordinance would have to be amended. Most council members made all types of excuses for Brown. Dowling stated that he had voted against the ordinance, which he did not, and we're going to show that to you below. And back to the quote, and he would give Brown the authority to handle these hiring decisions without council. The charter says they can't. He also said the village is short-staffed and Brown doesn't need busy work. Hernandez piped in that she never makes deadlines in her job, so she understands. That statement in and of itself is remarkable, Campini went on to say. In Hernandez's view, the village needs more employees. She also said that operating the water company was another business that Brown had to run. She then went on to say that they were told how easy the water company was to manage, but that was not the case. I think almost every public speaker told the council that it would be very hard to manage. And we go on. Gibbs Thomas wanted to take back the authority granted to the manager and follow the charter. The others did not. We take a stronger approach. That's the end of Tom's quote here. I'll link to the full story on Talk About Martin, and you can read it. Tom takes a little bit more lenient approach than we do. We kind of take a stronger approach than Tom does and think that stopping the minor offenses up front prevents having to deal with the major ones down the road. Ask any parent, they'll tell you. Howard Brown is right in the middle of this equation, and he is all of the time. From Janet's drones about learning and needing his hand for direction, and Anthony on how he's building a ship and Howard is the water that makes it float, Jackie, well, shoot, she's just as bad. And by the way, when was the last time you heard Guyton ask anything that makes it look like he's even paying attention? He's weekend at Bernie's anymore, doing the least amount to get by and could care less. He votes with the minority majority just to make it easy on himself. Folks, if you allow this Howard Brown fan club to keep running things, you're going to have real issues. Remember, Howard was in charge of departments like the water department at the heart of the FBI's 4-year criminal corruption investigation in Opelika, Florida. His own resume has him in charge during this time. We're not making that up. So ask yourself this question. If Howard knew nothing about any of it, as his council fan club says, then what does that say about his management practices and standards and his ability to manage? He could not see a $4 million shortfall and all of the graft that was going on his watch all around him. He looked the other way, maybe? If he did know, then he was complicit. If he did not know, then he is a blind leader and he's not a good fit. Either way, Howard is the wrong man for the job, unless, of course, you're corrupt and have an interest in his dealings. You know, Howard has it in his contract that he can maintain his own outside consulting firm. The village gave him that opportunity. Did you know also that the $320,000 that the consultant was paid for and Howard brought in for the fire rescue plan was an old friend? He's also the past Orlando fire chief that was run out of town for corruption issues relating to race and oppression. So if Howard knows this guy and pays him $320K from the village money, what is preventing him from charging the good old fire chief 20% of the total fees as a finder fee? See, Howard can easily be bringing in these consultants for all these studies you're paying upwards of $1 million, all told. Do we have proof that finder's fees are occurring? No. Do we have proof the fire chief was run out of town for racial and because he was a bad and corrupt fire chief? Yep. Do we have proof Howard was where he said he was in Opelika and was doing what he said he was when the FBI ran their 4-year sting? Uh-huh. So ask yourself, is it simply about race? Is it because he's black he can do no wrong? Jackie actually asked the racist comment when the council was discussing hiring him. She wanted to know what race he was. Like that was the most important thing she could know. Why do they fail to heed the reality of his past and what could be their near future? Are they part of it? FDLE's been in town once recently. I'd expect to see them back again. And the longer this charade continues, the greater those chances. Howard has the potential to be making a whole lot of cash at your expense. Will the council listen, though? It only takes 3 votes to change things. Please take the time to watch the discussion of the council below. Listen to them in their own words when they're talking about taking power away from you and what they really think of you. Watch how Anthony is willing to step all over your rights because he thinks it's in his way. Yeah, Janet thinks your voice is not worth listening to either. Just listen to her. She thinks, therefore, the voter is wrong and they know better, so they should step all over you. Jackie assured us Howard would never break the deal, and Wade said they could take the authority back. Oh, give me a break. When is the last time authority given has ever been taken back? And if the people don't stop them from taking it from you, they won't stop. It should never have been illegally taken from you to begin with. Please watch the clip below of the December 9th meeting. It tells you everything you need for this election. All right, enough for now. Remember to follow us at talkaboutmartin.com and receive instant notifications and news stories that affect Martin County, like the TAM alert that we think we're going to be putting out shortly. We're waiting on one of our TAM watchdogs to send us some information about how Jackie Clark seems to be using illegal campaign signs. She can't even follow the proper law on campaign signs, and she wants you to reelect her. All right, Indiantown, it's time to step up and step out. You must vote Jackie and Anthony out of office in this next election, and more on that to come. For now, keep your heads up, your principles strong. Nomo out.